29 minutes to go. "28 minutes to go. "27 minutes to go. "26 minutes to go. "25 minutes to go. 24 minutes to go. 23 minutes to go. 22 minutes to go. 21 minutes to go. Twenty minutes to go. 19 minutes to go. 18 minutes to go. 17 minutes to go. 16 minutes to go. 15 minutes to go. 14 minutes to go. 13 minutes to go. 12 minutes to go. 11 minutes to go. Ten minutes to go. 9 minutes to go. 8 minutes to go. 7 minutes to go. 6 minutes to go. 5 minutes to go. 4 minutes to go. Three minutes to go. Two minutes to go. One minute to go. Thirty seconds to go. Ten seconds to go. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Down the field, the Lions team that will not yield. And when the blue and silver wave, you stand and cheer the brave. Rah, rah, rah! On win the game, with honor you will keep your fame. So down the field and gain a Lions victory.
Lions with it, and goal from the 8, down 6, but on the move. Chris working from the gun, looks out to the right, now checks out that Viking defense. Takes the snap, back to pass, looks right, got Chase in the end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Lions. That's it. Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. How big is that? And now it's time to start the Detroit Lions podcast.
First, let me begin by saying it's great to be a Detroit Lion. I believe the time is now. Not 2 years or 3 years from now, down the road somewhere, but right here, right now.
He dives in for the touchdown. Did he get it? Yes, sir, he did. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Matthew took it across, and the Lions have taken the lead with 12 seconds to go.
There's one goal here, and one promise I made to Mrs. Ford is winning. If we can get one step better every day, that's putting this organization in the right direction.
Matthews got it. Gives to Abdullah right side. Got a hole. Abdullah 20. Abdullah 10. 6 the man at the 8. And dances into the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Lions fans, it's time for the podcast you've been waiting for. The Detroit Lions Podcast Postgame Show with your hosts, Chris and Case.
Hey, howdy-ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions Podcast. This is the live post-game show, and it's the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I'm your dashing host, Chris, and with me is my good friend and co-host, Case. Case, how are you doing, my man?
I'm good. My secret plan to install my clone onto the Vikings offense paid off big time.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, we'll check that out. We got a big one today. We got Sandman joining us. Everyone's favorite highlight and slow light master is going to be on the show with us as a co-host. Of course, we'll be taking your calls. And we have a roundtable discussion that we're going to kick off about the game today. It is going to be, nothing short of amazing. Case, you ready to go, my man?
Yeah, the other case got skull fucked.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
All right, here it is, the post-game show. Don't forget about our tweet stream. A couple of quick announcements. I forgot to mention that part. DetroitLionsPodcast.com. On Get Social, you'll be able to see all the Lions players' tweets as they fly out live. Good way to see all that stuff amalgamated together. Also, make sure to check us out and help us out on Patreon. Special thanks to Dylan from...
Wham!
Yeah. There's also Michael, Matthew, Eric, Lucas, Joel, Nick, Noodle, Jeffrey, Brendan, Justin, John, Ross, Matt, Morgan, Randy, Peter, Matt G, Kalen, Scott, Joel, Greg, Marcus, Lucas, Danny, David, Richard, Bryce, Chuck Nasty, Jason, Fight Me Case, Mike K, Floundericious, Gianna, Miak, Malcolm, and of course our very first donor, Mathis. I also want to give a little call out to our newest patrons, Dan, Zandelion, Gary, and newest of all, Peter Von Panda. Don't forget to give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/The Detroit Lions Podcast, facebook.com/The Detroit Lions Podcast, and of course on Twitter. It's where all the fun and magic happens at DET Lions Podcast. It is the very best place to see Case
with no pants on.
Ow! All right, rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you find us. Give us those 5-star reviews. We're going to bring back the dramatic reads on those, and I don't think you guys want those.
No, you really don't. I will do my Boston accent again if you guys aren't good.
God, that's ugly. All right, we're going to put out the phone line here very shortly for you guys to give us a call. But in the meantime, we're going to get it off with our roundtable discussion.
This is no time for a quick release. We're going deep.
All right, first, foremost, we need to welcome our co-host for the day, special guest, the one, the only, super master of highlights, slow lights, and all the lights out stuff that you want to see, Sandman. How you doing, brother?
Good, guys. How are you tonight?
Feeling pretty good right now. This was super satisfying, wasn't it? We've had to listen to Vikings fans talk all offseason. You know, I think they got a little bent out of shape that we ran the table on them last year, and maybe poor phrasing on my part to conjure, Packers-related stuff. But the point, they're, cocky all offseason that the Vikings were going to, they weren't going to let that happen again. Well, they did.
It's funny because the Vikings to me are always one of those teams where I feel like their fans always think that they're going to go 12-4, or whatever it is, and then that dose of reality always seems to hit. They always seem to have injuries or what have you, and they're never quite as good as they think they are. But this was a good game today.
Absolutely was. And I'd like to kind of just get a couple views, as we usually do, and we're getting kind of back into it here with our live post-game shows. Just each of you guys, if you take a moment, we'll start with you, Sam, man. Just kind of do your kind of review of the game and run through what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like.
Defense. I never would have guessed this year that our defense would look like this. It's kind of been amazing, the transformation, because really you look at it, our talent is about the same as it was last year as far as names go. It's really just that jump from first-year players to second-year players that have made such a big difference on this group, and the amount of playmaking that they've had. I think we had 14 takeaways all of last year. This year we're at 11.
We're tied. I think we're in the lead right now. I didn't check to see if Baltimore got any today, but they were at 10. We were at 8, but we had 3, so we have 11 now.
That's insane to me.
I think we're leading the league. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so crazy. And a game like this, where offensively we don't look great. Our line is kind of destroyed by their defensive line.
Yeah.
I watch these games and I'm disappointed in the play calling, and I'm disappointed in a lot of things. Our receivers' inability to get open versus man coverage against good cover corners. But then I kind of look back at it and I think to myself that this is kind of all in Caldwell's plan, I guess is how I would put it. That he doesn't extend us any further than we need to be extended at any given time. He never puts us in a position to lose, by being overly aggressive or making a poor call at the wrong time. He'd rather run 3 times in a row and get -2 yards than throw the ball 3 times in a row and possibly have it intercepted or put us in a bad spot. So this game to me is another one of those games that it's ugly. It's ugly. But at the end of the year, when we're looking at our record, what does it say? It says win, and that's all I really care about.
Yeah. No, there was a lot that did not go, the way we would hope it would. And what you mentioned was that our receivers have a hard time getting open. It doesn't help that they don't have very long to get open. It doesn't help that, Stafford isn't even able to escape the pocket a lot of the time, which we know he's good at. And if they could do that, we'd be seeing more big plays down the field. But there are definitely problems. I do want to point out that I think through 4 weeks we faced really overall, I think all 4 have been above average to excellent defenses. Whether or not that'll bear out, as the year goes on, I can't say with any level of certainty, but I think that they've all 4 been good defenses. And I think if you look at our schedule for the rest of the year, there's still a few good defenses on there, but it's not every week like it has been. So I won't be surprised to see a little uptick in things like our passing game, working a little more in the first half of games than it has been, but we'll see.
Yeah, this is an offense that really should be performing a lot better. I mean, the defense is playing out of their shoes much better than I thought they were going to this year. The predictions I had were not at this strong of a defense, and I felt like the offense was going to be this is going to be a year where the offense won some games for us. And boy, it's starting to feel a little bit like 2011, isn't it?
Yeah, and like Sandman mentioned, there's some first year to second year players that have really emerged. Obviously, Anthony Zettel. I think this game was really a coming out for Miles Killebrew too, because while he's made a lot of big plays or a handful of big plays. This game he was super consistent, and he was with his, he was great in coverage, and there may be a couple of passes that receivers could have caught against him, but he's always right there, and he makes those big hits. And there were some times when he disrupted plays. I just felt like he was where he needed to be, almost every play, and to have that in a hybrid guy, which is always something of a weird situation, not necessarily something I think we've done a very good job with in the past, even Terrell Austin with hybrid guys, but to have one he's starting to look a little bit, I don't want to overhype him, but there's a little bit of that honey badger type thing going on there, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah, he's definitely got his role, right? I mean, he in his first year, they'd put him in on third down, and he would cover tight ends. He would cover running backs out of the backfield. And if they changed the play up, he would be able to crash inside because he's a big enough guy. He's a fairly big, bulky safety when it comes down to it. But this year has really shown his ability to grow as a player into, a more consistent coverage role where he obviously understands the defense much better, and they're not worried about him being out there and making a boneheaded play or, not knowing the proper defense. He's going to be where he's supposed to be, and that's probably the most important thing in a Terrell Austin defense, is being where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I've talked a little bit about the run. I really appreciate the run. Amir Abdullah,
that we couldn't quite get him to 100 yards is frustrating, but
6 yards shy with it looked like an ankle there.
Yeah, he looked like he was ready to come back in, and they didn't bring him back in, but at least that's promising that's probably not a long-term thing, just to put a little ice on it and call it good type of thing, I hope.
Yep. Yeah, I think they said he was able to come back in, and I think they just played it safe. Yeah. But isn't this like the third or fourth time where he's gotten like 89, 93 yards, and they didn't play him at the end because it was like crunch time, and they put Theo Riddick in during those crunch time moments, and so it's it's
and I get
one
that.
Of those things.
I definitely, and I appreciate that they're not willing to risk a player's long-term health, or B, a win on doing something risky. Like I'm behind that, but at the same time, it would have been nice to get that monkey off our back too. But oh well. Next time,
right?
Absolutely. All right. Hey, let's open up the phones. We'll keep the discussion going, but we've had a lot of people trying to call in while we've been doing our thing here. So we're going to open up the phone lines here for you guys. It's 248-782-8384. If you want to give us a call, not plain old telephone, it's 248-782-8384, or hit us via Skype at Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word, Detroit Lions Podcast. It's time to get going deep.
This is no time for a quick release. We're going deep.
All right. No quick releases, going deep, like you said. All right. You can go ahead and give us that call. What else do we talked a little bit about Caldwell not being, going for the kill shot. Is this something that he's doing so that people don't hurt him later? Is he worried he's going to make them mad and they're going to play harder next time? Or is he just...
I don't know.
It seems it's not... He can't be gentlemanly like that, right? That just doesn't... While it seems character-like for him, it seems the most anti-coach thing you could ever do.
I think that Caldwell wants everything in his control as long as possible. And I think that he plays his entire game in that he knows what's going to happen next, whether it's offensive or defensive. I think he wants that. So I don't think he, necessarily gives Jim Bob Cooter even the opportunity to call, a 13-yard pass play on a second down when we're trying to wind out the clock, that if we make that play, we seal it. I think he'd rather just, play the odds and take the more likely scenario, which is, run the ball and just let it go. But it is frustrating at times when you feel like our team is good enough to do the kill shot and we don't take it.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so there's something funny going on with Skype as usual. I'm going to reset this call with you guys, Sandman, and then we'll be able to take the calls from the other folks. So let me get you guys out. I'll get this reset, and we'll get you back on. Sorry about the little technical thing here, guys. It's unfortunate, but it's one of Microsoft's greatest feelings, I think. So, yeah, good game, and wait a minute. A couple calls coming in here, making this more difficult than it needs to be. 28384. There we go. Okay. Get this going. All right, caller, how you doing?
I'm good. Am I on?
You are on the air. We're bringing Sandman back right now and Case back right now. It's something funny about how Skype wants to operate. So how you doing, caller? Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
All right, awesome. All right, well, I've been trying to listen, but I can't get the YouTube link to load. It keeps on saying 29 minutes. And yeah, I think you responded to me. But what I wanted to say, because I've been trying to get through, and I have no idea what you've been saying the last couple minutes. But the people that are talking about Jim Bob Cooter's offensive plays, these people have been riling me up because honestly, today was just a bad day from Stafford. He's been throwing passes that weren't on target and just not completing the passes that we needed. And obviously that's going to happen. With a good quarterback, they're going to have bad days, and that's what I think happened with Stafford. However, I don't think that means we have to jump down the offensive coordinator's throat. And that's what I really have been calling about and really wanted to listen about and see what people were thinking about.
Well, here's where I don't completely disagree with you. I mean, I'm not like I'm not ready to fire Jim Bob Cooter or anything like that. Like that's completely premature, But Stafford was under an extreme amount of pressure all day, which, I mean, that's when that happens, you're going to get things like, errant passes. He's also not getting his receivers open, which leads to some bad passes, or the passes that look bad on his part, but he's trying to make something happen. Because for a large portion of the game, I mean, we finished off 7 points up, but for a huge portion of the game, we were down, and he was just trying to make something happen, and his receivers weren't open. So, I definitely think that he got away with maybe a couple of things that should have been picked, but at the same time, like, what else is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to just, like, accept that we're going 3 and out on every drive and never try to force a ball in to make something happen? So I guess that's where I'm at with it. But
what he needs to do is, a lot of times he's having a lot of pressure. That's true. But the defense from Minnesota is pretty stout. So what he needs to do is not hold on to the ball so long. Many of the sacks that he took were because he held on to the ball. He could have thrown the ball away many times, and then he wouldn't take the second. Yes, of course, that's a loss of the down because it's not going to result in anything. But it makes it to where we would actually have a chance to go for a third down if we needed to, instead of having to try a play from third and 15 or third and 20 or whatever. Well, the play calling from Jim Mamkuda, I don't think it was bad. Yeah, we established a run. Abdullah should have made it to 100 yards, I think. But 94 yards from him is pretty good. And that's what you need to do in a football game, especially from a National Football League game, right? So you establish a run, and then you open up the pass, and that's what we did. It was just on Stafford because he missed a couple throws, which would have extended drives, and maybe we score on them, maybe we don't. But if he would have made the proper throw, which, again, many quarterbacks don't make, and maybe it stalls a drive, but that doesn't mean that, I don't know. I'm just saying he didn't have a perfect day. Right.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, this is definitely one of those teams that I think we're always going to be struggling with, mostly because of the way that they play football. Their man-to-man coverage with their insane pressure is about as good of a Achilles heel, against us as it possibly gets.
Line troubles we have with Robinson starting left tackle, which he's a second stringer, so of course Griffin's gonna pretty much make him, it's gonna look like he's a second stringer, but we played good on offense, and I think the play calls were good, that we just didn't execute so much on them. And,
I would actually agree with that for the most part. I'm not willing to lay that entirety of the execution straight on Stafford. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of blame in terms of execution to go around, and when you have that much, failure to execute, then you do kind of look back. It's not necessarily the play calling, but you still say, well, what's the offensive coordinator not doing?
Blame on Stafford either. I don't want to place blame on Stafford in the sense of, oh, he did a bad job or whatever. I just think that it happens when you play in the NFL. You're going to have bad games, and I think Stafford did have a bad game today. And that's not something that you can game plan about, and it's not something that you can change like the scheme about, but it's just going to happen. And I think that the game plan that we did was able to overcome the bad play that Stafford had. Again, I think he's a great quarterback, and I think he's the best quarterback we've ever had, and he's going to lead us to what we want. It's just the sense. It's just the fact that quarterbacks are going to have bad games, so we shouldn't. I mean, I'm looking at the game thread, and people are complaining about Jim Bob Cooter, and I just think that that's wrong. We shouldn't complain about something that only didn't work because someone had a bad game. People are going to have lows and people are going to have highs.
Yep.
So
okay, no, I appreciate that, and thanks for the call. We're gonna get to some more calls. I'm gonna do something here in the background, but I am gonna talk a little bit to that because Jim Bob Cooter has, love the name, right, and love a new guy who as a coordinator. Love to see a guy like that bring it together and come into his own and kind of take in a position like that and grow. It feels a lot with Cooter on the long haul, not just like a high and a low, but on the long haul with him, that he's been a lot like, a lot like Lombardi before him. And I'm not sure that that's good for the team. I'm not sure that's, I'm not sure where he's going to grow to and what he's going to become. So we'll see. Jim Bob Cooter he's done great stuff with the run, but he hasn't been able to seem to put together a full offensive call on a game. And often his biggest success, I believe, comes from when Stafford gets to make the calls. All right, we got another caller here. How you doing, caller?
Great. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Pretty good. What do you got for us?
Well, I wanted to say that talking about the previous thing you talked about, I also don't want to put that on Stafford. He either threw the ball when he was like trying to rush it and almost got picked, or he held onto it because there was good coverage and he got sacked. So what do you want him to do? I think that was on the line more than anything, and I thought Stafford did, the best that he could overall. The Vikes did a great job of keeping him in the pocket so he couldn't roll out and use his legs.
That was absolutely big. Yep.
Yeah. So my question was, I guess, who do you guys think the player of the game was? I want to give you, I'd say between Abdullah, Quinn, maybe Zettel. What do you think?
Ooh. I think I'd give it. Tentatively, I think I'd give it to Abdullah because without him, I don't.
Touchdown effort.
Yeah.
That one. He's like 6 yards away from a 100-yard rusher, and that effort on that TD drive, I think, was the difference in the game. If he doesn't get that, I don't know that we score there with that
body control
defense. So.
Yeah, the body control to stay horizontal, that long to manage to get past the goal line was pretty impressive. I won't.
Let me talk about that just for a second, because this one, I tweeted about it during the game, but it made me angry that they called him down, right? They and just bear with me here. They called him down. They quote, they saw something that didn't happen, right? And I wouldn't be like as frustrated with it right now as if what happened on the Thursday night game hadn't happened.
Yeah.
But what his knee never touched the ground, but they called him down. They never saw it, so they should have called the touchdown and then went for the reversal on the play because they did not see him go down. They had to make a guess. Okay, so that's the kind of point in time that I'm talking about. In the game on Thursday, the Packers and Lowell Bears game, when they called the tip pass, no one saw that pass get tipped. It wasn't really even close. Yet,
are you talking about on the punt or the?
Yeah, there was
off the heel thing. Yeah,
no, that one. There was the pass they called that was tipped, and they called and it wasn't, and he never touched it, and it wasn't even really close. No one saw it, but the Bears convinced the refs that it was tipped. Right? No, not one ref saw it because it didn't happen and it wasn't close.
Right, it wasn't even close.
Right, that is terrible. They're calling things they're not even seeing. That is a real issue. Okay, that is a real issue.
And that's one complaint about the Lions is we never seem to argue that side of things. Caldwell is very quiet when it comes to that, and we don't get loud about that. And I think that bites us sometimes.
I do think so too. I think nobody. From a ethical, from a fan, I want to like these guys standpoint. Yeah, that's cool that they don't, that they're not always trying to, persuade the refs. I think that's kind of a dirty thing to do. But at the same time, everyone else does it. And if you don't do it, you're going to get fucked. So.
Yeah, so we got the challenge off to overturn it. And Abdullah, 94 yards. I mean, this is against a good run defense for sure.
Yeah, it is sure.
I really think if Cooter is committed to doing this run game thing this year, Abdullah is going to break 100 yards this year against a team that's not as stout. I know it's going to happen.
He's going to rip some teams open. I think he's just going to rip some people wide open this year with the way he can run. But you're not going to do that against a team like the Vikings. It's just not going to.
Yeah, and
it was close.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's looked a little rusty, so far this year until today. Today really, like, it seemed like we had a little bit, like he's finally got his feet, under him. In a similar way, Le'Veon Bell took a little while to get rolling this season, and maybe a similar, he's still he's probably 99%, through the first 3 weeks, so not quite 100%. You know what I mean? And to see him come out today and really those jump cuts he makes are brutal, and when he can do that, there aren't a lot of backs in the league who are better at making something out of nothing than him, which is exactly, as I've talked about many times in the past, exactly why he fits our team probably better than almost any other back in the league. Not to say he's the best back in the league, but because of what we're dealing with, especially and not to criticize Jim Bob Cooter, the way we run our run game, you have to have somebody who can make those moves behind the line of scrimmage and slip out of everything.
Stafford holds the ball for like 4 seconds and then delayed hands off it to Abdullah. That doesn't work on any other team except with Abdullah. Like, I hate that play.
It works on Madden. I really like doing draw plays on Madden, but
I know it works. It works on the Vikes. So I don't know that it happens against the Panthers next week. I'm in North Carolina actually. All my neighbors are Panthers fans.
They had a big game
that win. Too. But against the Saints the week after, I think we get 100 yards.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the call. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I want to bring up another thing really quick. Just the one thing, when we talk about arguing against those plays against the refs, and you're probably not going to be expecting this, but a modest lion mentioned it in the chat, and he's darn right. Getting rid of Schwartz, right, and the Caldwell effect on this team, while they're not out there arguing and creating that kind of ruckus with the refs and so on, they're also really, really disciplined. And I think I would rather see the discipline that these players are showing out there on the field than the kind of insanity and lack of control that we saw in the Schwartz area. And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I can argue with that.
There are two ends of a pendulum, though. There is a nice middle place, I think. And if we can get there, that'd be awesome. Sam, are you like the guy that's hanging around on the sidelines on the home games being insane and yelling at the refs? And
I'm always very upset with the refs. And it's one of those things that I can see both sides of the coin. I do think that, some teams have some pull over the refs. And I think like the Cowboys are one of those teams. And I think it's mostly because the refs know that Jerry Jones, as the owner, is going to raise some hell about, a bad call against them or a questionable call. And then that's going to, trickle down to them, and they're going to get yelled at. Whereas I don't think, even if Caldwell complained on the sideline, I don't know if the Lions organization as a whole has enough clout to really, influence anybody behind the scenes to say, hey, what the hell? Why does this keep happening to us? Because really that conversation I'm sure has occurred, but obviously nothing has really come out of it because we keep getting screwed by these weird rules and weird play calls. So it's hard to say. I think I'm with you, though. I would rather have a calm, collected team than a team that gets really pissed off over a bad call and that potentially, ruins the rest of their game.
I want to interrupt real quick. Just this is relevant to us for the future, for the division, for the future. It does sound as though Dalvin Cook has the initial diagnosis for Dalvin Cook is a nearly complete ACL tear, which if they'll still get an MRI and see if that's if it's something he can come back from this season or not. But chances are pretty good that non-contact injury did him in for the year after a promising start. So,
that's horrible. I hate to see stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, Wilson did a fantastic job on that play of helmeting the ball. There was nothing that our players did at all that caused that, which is nice, especially after we saw what happened on the Thursday night game with Danny Trevathan. So it's nice to not be the cause of that, but at the same time, like, obviously, poor young kid, he'll be back, but we'll see. We have not seen the end of Dalvin Cook.
No, I would agree. Even if he doesn't come back this year, I don't think it will be that big of a deal for him in the end. They're doing really great stuff with ACLs, and a lot of people are coming back from them like nothing happened. So, fingers crossed for him, and hopefully, he'll be back better than ever.
Yeah, you hate to see that happen to a young guy. I mean, and I mentioned it in the game when the play first happened. We got the fumble, and that was really sweet. And then after we got the fumble, you see that he went down, and that was no good. But it was you hate to see a young guy get hurt, and Case and I have talked about it a little bit before. It is kind of sometimes when somebody gets hurt, it benefits your team. You hate it for the player, but when it comes
but from a pragmatic stance, it certainly helps our odds at winning the division, although obviously that still goes through Green Bay, but also our chances at a wild card or just the playoffs in general.
Yes, exactly. Hey, we got a new caller. How you doing?
Hi, this is Arthur, Melcher23 on Twitter.
Hey,
how you guys doing? I'm doing all right, man. This is my first time calling in. I might reiterate some stuff because I didn't get a chance to catch the show, so I just wanted to talk about a couple things. What do you guys think about? I felt like we were well on our way or pulling away from that game, and that horrible holding call there on TJ Lang, where he just mauled the guy, and then we get it back, and that just killed our drive, and they came down and scored a touchdown. I felt like we had that game in hand, and that just kind of turned the tables on us.
Sandman, do you want to talk to that one?
I kind of missed out on some of that. Skype dropped out on me, but I will say that every Lions game the past couple, or at least the last year at least, feels close in that it could be one way or the other due to one call. And a holding call like that is exactly the kind of thing that kind of puts my stomach up into my throat. Because we're moving, everything's going great, and then it's a phantom call that seems like this could be it. Like this was the drive that we were going to score, and now all of a sudden we're put back by some phantom ref call.
Exactly. Yeah. I felt like in the first half that we had opportunities that we missed, and then in all fairness and full transparency, that second half, I think we all can agree, they had a lot that they missed as well. A lot, right?
Oh, yeah. Both sides got messed up. Can I just gotta be angry about holding calls now? The reason the holding calls make me so mad is because you say the saying is, holding happens on every play. Okay, then why is it a 10-yard penalty? If it happens on every play and it's part of the game, it should be a 5-yard penalty. It is so egregiously bad.
100% agree.
When they get called, it has a huge drive-stopping ability. But they openly admit that happens every play and they miss it. If it does, they either got to clamp down and call every single one and kill the game for a couple of weeks until guys learn how not to hold, or it's a 5-yard penalty that we know we don't always get, and this is kind of part of the game thing, right? It's either one or the other.
Well, there's a bunch of penalties like that are horrible. Like defensive holding is an automatic first down. Yeah. Like you're telling me that a guy getting held at the 7 yards past the line of scrimmage gives a first down on a 3rd and 25. That's a joke. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think
I agree.
I think the idea behind it being a 10-yard penalty is probably in their minds one way of like equalizing the offense and the defense in the NFL. They've moved towards long-term towards promoting the offenses in higher scoring games, but I think that their unwillingness to move on that particular one may just be they want to make it at least sort of difficult for offenses. Maybe that's just a thought on it, but
that's exactly kind of what we were going back and forth on Twitter about that. And like Chris said, you can. I mean, that's actually a narrative that does have some truth to it. You pretty much could, if you wanted to, call holding on every play. But then where that gets me is, so you can do that, and there's plenty of times where I have no problem. Oh yeah, we held, you called on us, whatever. But when we're not doing it, and then you decide to call it, and not only that, I don't know if anybody noticed, unless I'm missing something here, I don't believe they got called for a hold all games. You can't tell me they didn't. You know what I mean? It's not like it was agreed, just like we had a bunch of holding calls. I'm just saying, you can't sit there and that really kicked us right in the nuts, and then for them not to have one all game, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad that we pulled it out and all, but I was steaming. I was so upset with that because you could just feel the air, just go right out of us. And here, and I thought, of course, here we go, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where I think in the future we're going to see more back judges, that we need to have 3 or 4 guys that are kind of watching the line. I mean, what popped into my head while you were just kind of, saying your piece there was last year, I think, when it was Graham Glasgow got called for a hands to the face penalty, and it was the defender that had his, Graham Glasgow's head was basically off. Like, how does that happen? Yeah. How do you miss that? And I just feel like we don't, the referees just don't have enough eyes, and it definitely becomes a problem.
Well, I'll say one last thing before I get out of here, guys. What's going to happen? It's inevitable. He's not, 9 isn't going to play great all the time, right? And the world's not falling. It happens to every single quarterback. Here's the difference. There's something different about this team, right? Years past, he plays like that, we lose 99 times out of 100, So that's what I'm liking, these games are going to happen. I'd rather have him get this out of the system and a win than the other way around, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, it was good talking to you guys. I'm going to hang up and listen on Twitter.
All right.
Guys.
Thanks a lot, man. All right. God, good calls today. Good stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned in chat that Levi tried to call. So if you're listening, keep trying. We'll see if we can get you in.
Yeah. Levi's always a great
I haven't talked to you in a while, so.
Yeah. Say, man, you're going to love him. He's a great call. He brings a good contrarian view on a lot of different stuff.
Oh, good.
So it's
I like contrarian views.
Yeah, and it's always, he's always got, some solid evidence to back up. So love it. Maybe we should call him. Just give him a surprise call.
Go knock on his door. Publishers Clearinghouse style.
It's funny. His name's Levi, but he lives right up the road, I guess, from Levi Stadium, and his wife's a big Niners fan and has the whole season tickets and the whole deal. So. All right. So anyway, if you guys want to give us a call, you can take part in the show as well. Don't forget, it's area code 248-782-8384. That's 248-782-8384. Or you can use the old Skype. It's one word, Detroit Lions Podcast. Give us a call at Detroit Lions Podcast on the Skype, and we'll get you on the show here. All right. So we talked about the defense. It looked really good. Let's talk about that offensive line. We've got a lot of guys that are hurt on that line, on the offensive line. Did we hear any statuses on what the length of time on these guys back is? Are we going to wind up with Decker being the only starter on our offensive line here?
I mean, Lang came back into the game, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think
so. I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah, I think he was kneeling down while they were looking at Abdullah's ankle. And then when Abdullah came off, the refs thought he was injured, and they called a medical timeout. And when you do that, you have to remove a player for
I was wondering
at least one.
I did.
Yeah, it was really weird because he was walking, he was fine. It was. I don't know why they wouldn't have combined him and Abdullah into one medical thing, but yeah, that was funky.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned about that. Did I miss that anybody else went down or?
Let's see. Ricky Wagner was hurt for a bit.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This was definitely a scary game. I will say that Wagner looked a little shaken up a little bit.
Oh,
Lang
he
went
had
down
some
for a little
trouble.
bit.
Wagner had some trouble in this game too. I think it was probably his worst game as a Lion, but I will also chalk that up somewhat to it being a very solid defensive line for the Vikings. But
yeah, and he had zero help because I think that the game plan was that they had to leave him on an island because they had to put help over with Greg Robinson. They absolutely had to. And then Hunter, all the times he won, he got his hand into Wagner's chest and just was able to push him back where Wagner was kind of, like the little brother that couldn't quite reach the older brother. And, that's definitely a coachable thing. So I'm excited that, it wasn't, like Wagner was too slow or was just completely getting manhandled. It was more of a technique thing from what I saw. So hopeful that he'll get that resolved pretty quick.
Yeah. Now, there's something we didn't talk about yet, Sandman, and Case came up with Abdullah for his player of the game. Zettel was thrown out there. Quinn was thrown out there. I wonder where your head's at. Who's your player of the game this week?
I would have to go with Miles Killebrew, personally. I think he, with our linebacking core being so busted up, especially, coming in, it wasn't good. No. And then Warley leaves on, like the first series. And he's not that great either, but, it's better to have than to have not. Right. And, so when Killebrew was kind of forced into that permanent hybrid role where I think we were playing, a 3 safety set with him playing, like the Joker, right. Where he can just, go where he's needed to be. I think he did an excellent job, covering their tight end until, towards the end of the game when he got shifted off a little bit. But, he was where he needed to be. He was hitting the proper holes. He was, getting to the running back across the field, before he could really get into the second level. So I think he did a fantastic job. And for a second-year player, especially, playing a kind of a weird position where you're half and half, that's not the easiest thing to do, and I thought he did it very well.
Yeah, I love me some Miles Killebrew. He's great. I'm gonna go a little different, and I don't know. Maybe this is just where my head's at. It is just kind of more personally. I really, really love Anthony Zettel. I don't know if, the tree thing. I was like, okay, this is funny. This is a guy that got drafted late and he shackles trees. It was right after the Kickalicious hype and all that. I'm like, okay, so we're doing this stuff now, right? But this guy has grown. I mean, he has grown big time this year, and I am really, really impressed with his play. He's in the backfield. He is just tearing people up. And it's amazing.
I'm trying to remember the last time we had a second-year player take that big of a step, from his rookie season to his second season. I mean, I guess you could also put Miles Killebrew in that conversation also, but like just to go from, a late round pick to just being awesome pretty consistently in his second year is and he was not somebody that any of us really had pegged as, prior to the preseason games. Once the preseason games started and, he started doing some things, we were like, oh, well, maybe, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. It's just that really surprises me to see that kind of growth out of a late round guy in his second year.
Yeah. When he came out of Penn State, he had all the intangibles that you kind of want to see in a defensive end. He had amazing hustle. He had really good, stamina. He really didn't slow down during games. Yeah. Really what he was missing was NFL experience. I feel like that was really his biggest Achilles heel. So the more he plays, the more you can see that his motor really just doesn't stop. Every time he rushes the passer, it's violent. He doesn't have I'm going to run into the right tackle, maybe try to shift left or shift right, take, a half play off. It's violent. He's flinging his hands around like a wacky, wild inflatable tube man trying to get free. He's going balls out. In my head, when I watch him rush, I just imagine him screaming the whole time, like, ah! The entire time, like he's running down the hill with a sword, So he's super exciting to watch, and I'm really happy with his progression, and I totally agree that he was a huge part of this game, and I think he's going to be a huge part of the rest of our games for sure.
And I think part of why it shocks me so much is just the number of times we've heard, over the last 5 years or so, that a player we have, has great potential and just needs a little time to grow. Webster, players like that who was it Webster who tested out, his physical grades were almost comparable to Clowney or something like that. But then,
people thought just at tight end he was so crazy. Yeah.
Right. But then just never manages to figure out how to play the game in a meaningful way. And so I'm so used to that for our late round picks, even our mid round picks, to just be like almost entirely busts. So to hit on a few of these guys, all of a sudden, like it's shocking how quickly a team can turn from rebuilding, which I really felt like we were, to being in contention for something.
Well, it's
what exactly it is we're in contention for at this point, I'm not sure, but
it's
we're there.
It's really interesting because when Bob Quinn came in, right? I mean, we had a certain sense about what the Lions were, where they'd been, who they were. SOL was a very frequently and probably appropriately thrown around phrase, right? Bob Quinn comes in, and he did the opposite of what Jim Caldwell did with his right here, right now, we're going to be a great team kind of thing.
You mean Mark Mayhew?
No. When Caldwell said,
you mean Jim?
Yeah, we're in win now mode. We're in win now mode, right? He did it differently than Caldwell did, and I know they're different positions, but Quinn came in and he said, we're going to build a team. He put a timeline. He didn't put a real hard date timeline out there, but he didn't make any promises about right away, right?
Yeah.
And here he's been going through free agency and draft. We've talked about it. 2 years of drafts, 2 years of free agency, and he's killed it. It's like you said, it is so amazing to see what hitting on some of these later round picks will do to turn a team around. And then you've got two of these guys that are second round picks that are hitting big in their late round pick.
And I shouldn't ignore Robinson either. Even if he hasn't really had a huge impact so far this season, I still think he will.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Overall, but
this is a team. Wow, I mean, it's completely different, and it's the result of 2 years of quality work by Quinn. This guy, I don't think he gets enough love, and I think I think a lot of people in this team don't, and it's because there's that perception. Lions fans do the SOL thing, and it's the fans that are somewhat ignorant, we'll say, that are doing the SOL right now, and they keep hitting it. They keep doing the hey, it's the same old Lions, and it's just the way they're always going to be until the team comes together and puts together a Super Bowl or a championship or a couple of playoff wins. They're just going to be those same old Lions to a lot of people. So I get it and I understand it, but it's a different team. And I said this pretty early. It's a different team than it was. So hopefully we get them get everything working out the way it should be. We got a caller. Hey caller, how you doing?
Good, man. It's Bo. What's up, man?
Bo, a modest lion. How you doing?
Good. How about you guys? What are you guys up to?
Enjoying a win.
Living the dream.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better about the Atlanta loss now, just a little bit.
Just not how it happened.
I don't get fully over it, but yeah, this isn't a bad consolation prize.
It's kind of like breaking up with the hot girl and then kind of being down about it, and then another cute girl comes along and you're like, yeah, this will work for now.
Exactly. Until next.
Yeah. Until the next cute girl comes around.
And there's plenty of fish in the sea, right?
Yeah. Hopefully there's enough winds in the sea.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, I was kind of.
Well, we did that look at the schedule in the last podcast, and it certainly looks different. There very well may be a number of wins in the sea for us ahead.
That's what I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping the Lions keep pushing out and getting those wins. Like today was definitely a must-win, especially from losing the last game, which should have been a win. They can't be losing those games where we're going against, I think, an inferior team. The only saving grace from the loss last week, I'm hoping, is that it kind of got them. It reminded them that they got to fight for each win and they can't just let it go. I was afraid if they won the Atlanta game that they would get a little cocky and stuff, and then they would have lost to Minnesota or something like that. You know what I mean? So I didn't like the position they put themselves in today. I mean, it was a close game. There's bad stuff in each time, in both teams. But they almost put themselves in that position again for it to be a bad call that would save the game. You know what I mean? Like they would put themselves in that position to get screwed again, like they did with Atlanta, because it was one of those last second. Like it could have gone either way there at the end. Luckily, you know, the what's his name fumbled and stuff. But what happens if he bombed it and then there's a PI or something like that? You know what I mean? It would have just. They could have I was just close, man, for no reason. You know, I felt they should have, if the O-line would have did their job a little bit better and they would just, the offense, I mean, some of those plays were just like, what the hell? Like, Jim Bob Cooter, what are you doing, man? It almost felt like the old days, you know what I mean? Just that, like running Riddick twice in a row and stuff, and it just not even the right way. I don't know.
You know,
I just felt like they made it a little too close.
Yeah, you know, and it's definitely one of those things that last year, all of our games were like this, right? They were all crazy, except for the Saints game. Yeah. You know, it was one call one way or the other that could have shifted everything, and luckily, you know, things worked out well for us. And the more I see games like this, you know, I feel my old Lions fan trying to creep out and say, you know, like, we're lucky. This is, you know, we can't sustain this. You know, something's going to happen. But the new Lions fan in me, the one from last year and this year so far, kind of says that maybe this is just what the Lions are under Caldwell. We're a close team that just, you know, fights harder than the other team when it comes down to it. And that's just kind of the way it is. So it's definitely a weird spot to be in, though, because I don't know how I feel about wins like this all the time. Because you're right. You know, we're one bad pass interference call away from, you know, losing, or one bad review where maybe they don't call Abdullah in for that touchdown away from losing. But when it happens this often, it's kind of hard to say that it's a fluke thing. And you know, I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid on this close stuff, I guess.
Exactly. Hey, I agree with you with that, man. It's kind of a dicey place to be for sure, because when it works, it's fucking awesome and we're all happy and. You know, we're like, yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing. My heart's beating and stuff. But when it goes the other way, like last week, we're like, fuck the world, fuck the rest, fuck the NFL. Excuse my language, young kids. But it's you know, how long can our bodies go through that exactly? I mean,
being a Lions fan is not easy. I will say that for sure. That if I could re-pick my profession, I would be a cardiologist in Detroit because I would get so much work on Sundays. You know, just. It's for sure. It's definitely hard to be a Lions fan. There's no doubt about that.
You just have to prescribe more blue Kool-Aid and make them feel better.
Yeah, and you know, Sammy and I actually met in person during training camp for the first time this year. And after seeing me, he'll tell you, oh yeah, you can go a long time with this kind of Lions pain. But I'm only like 25, really, Sam, man. Just so you know, it's the Lions that did that
to me. Are you sure? It looked like you opened up the Ark of the Covenant.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
That's funny. All right, boys. Well, I'll let you go, man. I still follow you guys. I've just been busy with work, so I haven't called in a while. But I'm glad you guys are still doing this, and I'm happy we got a win today. And it's going to be a pretty crazy season, I think. So I'll be along for the ride.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fun one for sure. Thanks for calling, Bo. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, have a good one, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Yep.
All right, so let's do it really quick, Sam, man. Let's do a quick report. Did you go to the new club areas that we toured while we were there at training camp? Did you get to see some of the new stuff in action?
I did. It's amazing. You know, like all the great things that have been happening on the field, I feel like have been transferred off of the field onto the club sections and really just the stadium in general. I went over to the South Side Club for the first time last week. And they really just opened it up. It's way brighter. A lot of people don't get the opportunity to go into the club areas, but it was kind of dark and dingy. It felt like a nightclub, but it was noon, and it just didn't feel welcoming, I guess is how I would put it. So it's definitely one of those exciting things that you can tell that the Lions are putting a lot of effort on the field and off the field with everything that they're doing.
Yeah, that's great. And in the podcast, we talked a little bit about Rod Wood, and it felt like that kind of SOL pick, right? Here's a guy, friends of the family, they've been doing the financials for him forever. Then comes out and says, I don't know football. It's like, oh no, what are you doing?
Oh no.
And then you turn around and you say, you know what? this guy's he's a smart guy, and he seems to be a pretty astute businessman as well, because he understands that the customer is at the forefront. And those, like, I remember when we saw those video screens for the first time, and the club almost ready. I still have my picture of the blueprints for the club. I should post those sometime. It was just stunning to see the changes that had happened in Ford Field. The last time I was there was the Thanksgiving game last year, and then to go for training camp and see how much it changed. It was like, wow, this is, while it's still Ford Field, it's a new place.
It really is. And it's funny that, you brought up that Rod Wood thing, because I was with you 100% when he was like, I'm not a football guy. I thought, what a horrible thing to say. Like, even if you're not a football guy, don't say that, Yeah, exactly. And it turns out that we didn't need a football guy. We needed a businessman, and the more you think about it, and the more you think about Tom Luan,
boy,
and how muddy he got with football stuff, because he did the salary caps and he did all that stuff. I think he was sticking his nose way too far into the football side, and he really didn't have a football mind. He was whatever it was that he was. And so it's nice to have things kind of separated where, Rod Wood handles everything else except for football, and Bob Quinn only does the football stuff. And it really has allowed both those sides of the Lions to grow exponentially, kind of at the same rate, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's that business guy. We got a question from the chat. They want to know, someone's been following you on Twitter. Did they get the AC fixed at Ford Field?
I hope so. Holy crap. Oh, I should have brought that up myself. I'm so mad about that still. I'm not the svelte fella. So I'm sitting in the stands, and it feels like it's 85 degrees in there. I was dying. Every 2 minutes, I would feel a slight blast of cold air rush across my body for about, 20 seconds or so, and that would go away for 25 minutes. And I felt like I was at an outdoor game in Florida, is what it felt like.
Oh, no, it didn't. I've been outdoors in Florida. I can't walk to the other side of my garage right now without the humidity making me all wet.
I was sweating. Under my jersey, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm glad people can't see me. It probably looked like I had Mickey Mouse, on the front of my shirt, with tit stains. And, it was horrible, horrible. So hopefully they get that resolved. I don't know what happened, but, oh, man, I was dying. And that just made the Falcons' loss even worse for me. I walked outside, and it was cooler outside than it was in the stadium.
That's no good. That's no good at all.
Well, I'm glad that person brought that up. I needed to vent about that a little bit more.
How about the Wi-Fi? When we were there, it was really, really, it was hot. It was fast. It was really, really good. Did it still hold true with a stadium full of people?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi has been amazing. So they worked out a few kinks at the end of last year, and then even a few, I think, in the first game, just a little bit, like I would get disconnected every once in a while. But this past game, it was super smooth. I really didn't have any issues with it whatsoever. I could get on Twitter. I could check fantasy stuff. It allowed me to complain about how hot it was in the stadium.
That's why the Wi-Fi wasn't working before.
They didn't want people complaining. But yeah, no, the Wi-Fi has been really great. Overall, I just feel like the stadium as a whole, like fan experience-wise, is so much better that it kind of blows my mind that we had anything less than this, because it just really puts to shame the fan experience that we had before now, and makes me sad that I was paying as much money as I was for the little amount of fan experience I actually got other than the game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see. I'm going to call out the numbers again. We're going to get ready here. If the calls don't roll in, we'll get ready to kind of shut down the show here. But the number is 248-782-8384. That's 248-782-8384. And if you want to do it via Skype, you can do that. Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word, Detroit Lions Podcast. Either one will get you through to us, and we'll chat. Our boy Case is going through a dance with his Skype right now. Let's see. We got a call coming in here. Ron, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How you doing? Welcome back to the show, man. It's nice to get you back on the hoo-ha here.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So what do you got for us, Ron? It's We had a good chat last week.
Indeed, we did. And first of all, if you guys hear any loud subwoofer noises behind me, that's my neighbor watching the Bronco game. And the wall's right behind me. So I apologize for that up front. So, I agree with most of what you guys have been talking about. Killebrew really impressed me. I wrote in the chat that I was actually a little worried that he might slide into a linebacker position after Tahir got hurt, because they had already lost Warlow and then Tahir went down. But thankfully Tahir's was so brief. But still, I was like, whoa, is Killebrew going to be our weak side linebacker now or what?
I never thought I would tweet the words.
I mean, I do think
I hope we get Whitehead back on the field.
A little bit. I do think they used him a little bit in that linebacker role late in the game, which was, again, having a player who can do that, and essentially play three different positions, and not necessarily be elite at any of them, but capable at all of them. That's just something nice to have.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I don't know if you guys saw it in the chat. I just mentioned Forbath's kick could not have hit that upright more square than it did. that thing hit it right dead in the center and bounced right back. I was like, I saw the replay on that thing. I was like, man, right in the middle. It was beautiful.
If the post was made out of balsa wood, it would have snapped in half for sure.
Indeed. And by the way, Sandman, great work on your videos, man. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you very much, Ron.
Yeah, no problem.
That's already so big, dude. Don't do that.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I don't know him like you guys do.
I'm taking off my pants right now, actually.
All right. He's in podcast
mode. All right, guys. That's imagery I just do not need. I'm sorry. Anyway, my viewing experience this week was much better than it was last week. I actually got to a bar that actually had very few people in it. I was surprised, and they have all these giant TVs and everything. It was much better, and I've got 3 or 4 New Belgium 1554s in me at this point, so I'm feeling pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah, it was
like Doppelbock or something like that. It's a dark one, right?
Yes, it is. It's a very tasty brew. So anyway, back to the Lions. Yeah, I'm itching to get back to Ford Field. I haven't been there probably in about 5 or 6 years. My last game I saw there was against the Vikings, the one where they botched the extra point that would have tied it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how long ago that was. It was like it was a long time ago, 7 or 8 years.
Are you talking about Sue when Sue was kicking?
I don't think it was Sue. Maybe it was, though.
Maybe not. I don't remember who that was against, where we had to put Sue in to kick and he botched the extra point. And
I think
no.
But
okay. Never mind.
This was
different game.
Mobach totally screwed up the
it was snap. The only. I remember that because it was the only time he's ever made a mistake.
Yep. And it was like, I would believe that.
He's been doing this for 58 years, and he has one mistake, and it costs us a game. It's his only mistake.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Hansen was still the kicker at that point.
Oh, so. Yeah, yep, I believe he was. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been that long since I've seen Ford Field, and I have fond memories of it. But sounds like you got what's his name has done has really made the place sparkle now. So
you have to go now. It feels like a new stadium. If it was an opposing team stadium that I had never been to, I would have thought that they had just built it within the last 5 years. It's really the structural part of Ford Field I think is always going to be good because the layout's good, big nice wide hallways and all that stuff.
The use of brick.
But now the brick concrete is really good.
Yeah. And I also like the way they use the. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I from the get-go, I always liked the way they had the suites in the old Hudson's Warehouse building. Mm-hmm. And that was just such a unique way to do it, with the suites just going up one side. So anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's a perfect example of them taking the time to try to get it right back in 2002 or whenever that was, and them realizing that they were lacking in some areas and doing everything they could to bring Ford Field back to its initial glory. And I think that this will be good for a long time, because once you get there and you see the new scoreboards, you won't be able to believe it. I don't think it's pretty awesome.
Okay, well, definitely have to get it on my agenda to get back there. So
now I have to say, after seeing the game in Atlanta with that halo, though, how they have the video board around the top of the whole, like around the whole stadium, I'm a little jealous of that. That was pretty kick-ass looking.
Yeah,
kind of like basketball-ish.
Yeah, it is. It's like the size of a normal scoreboard, but it literally just wraps the whole thing. It's pretty wild, actually. I'm not sure how I like that, but it gives everybody an equal view of the scoreboards. That's for sure.
Well, you could do some pretty cool stuff with it too. It's really cool. It's really cool. You just got to admit it, man. Go ahead, Kay. Sorry.
No, it's cool.
I'm going to interject with something. I'm just seeing now 20 Men had a tweet out a little while ago that Abdullah's injury wasn't serious and that he could have come back if he had to. And I think, we already assumed that because we saw him on the sideline, but just to confirm what we were already suspecting, just so we're not sweating that one out all week here. So
he could have come back, but, we'll see him. He'd come back, in the Super Bowl. That's when the big comeback happened.
Yeah.
Well, I've got him on my fantasy team, and I was really itching for that 100-yard bonus. So
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that
we
was
all were.
Your mistake was drafting a Lions running back. So.
Oh, I got him late.
Okay.
But Jim Bob Cooter said.
Here's a post that I'm curious to find out about. Golden Tate was returning punts this week. Why do we think that was, as opposed to Jamal Agnew? They did end up using Jamal late in the game, I think, on at least one, maybe two. I'm not sure I was paying that close of attention, but Golden Tate being out there for punts is a little strange, right?
I was wondering whether or not that had something to do with Washington being injured. So Agnew was taking over the kicking return duties.
I see.
The kickoff return duties, sorry. And maybe Golden Tate just took the punting. I don't know why Agnew wouldn't do both, but.
Right, neither do I. Anyway, just somebody had asked it in the sub. That's Alexi92. I just figured I'd see if anybody had any thoughts there, because I certainly don't at this point have any idea what exactly is going on there.
Yeah, Jim Caldwell is notorious for, disciplining players without, anybody having any idea as to why, because they keep everything so tight-lipped and in-house that it's possible that, Agnew, had done some stuff that, they didn't like during practice, and they were kind of just letting you know that, hey, you're replaceable. And Golden Tate likes to return punts. I think that they have to, keep him from doing that, because we don't want to see him injured on some dumb punt return.
Right.
It doesn't matter. At the end of a game, that's really important. If we need a ton of yardage, I'm okay seeing Tate out there. But, Agnew's pretty good. So I don't know if, I would think that Tate's necessarily an upgrade. So I would have to think that it's got to be just internal, that Agnew dropped a couple punts, or it could even be that he just made a bunch of bad decisions with fair catch calls that they didn't like. And we're kind of just sending a quick message to him.
Could also be that they were maybe trying to throw different looks at the Vikings. Who knows?
That's very true too.
That is the case. Okay, hey Ron, we're gonna get going, man.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us on the joining us on the show.
Thanks, Ron.
I think we're going to call it now. We've done about an hour, and had a couple calls coming in, but this is a pretty good show. Sandman, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us again. It's great to have you on, and so everybody knows, Sandman's committed to joining us on the show, on the post-game show, whenever there's an away game, because for some reason he's busy on home game days.
Yeah, it's a little hectic on home games, but I'll be here every away game, and it will slow down the slow lights a little bit more than usual, but they're coming. I'm hoping to have them out within the next hour or so, so look forward to that.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Keep tuned to YouTube. Just get over to Sandman's channel. He'll be on here shortly. And with that, we're going to close the show out this week, and thank everyone for listening. Remember, we're looking for your involvement in the show. Use the comments in the subreddit when we post it. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think of the show. Also, don't forget about us on Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast, or just go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com. There's great content there. We got some amazing writers putting some great long form stuff out there for you to check out. And it's all the people that have been helping us so far. We really, really appreciate it, and you help keep this thing going and growing. Independent journalism at its finest right here. And, we can get guys like Sandman because we are so independent. All right. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/The Detroit Lions Podcast. It's facebook.com/The Detroit Lions Podcast. And on the Twitter machine at DET Lions Podcast. DET Lions Podcast. It is the best place to see Case.
With no pants on.
And now Sandman, too. Don't forget to use our links on the website, DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Main menu has a shop link. It'll take you to Amazon, and they'll give us a little kickback from your sale. Never pay more. Sometimes you get to pay a little less. And it's a great way to help the show by doing something you're going to do anyway. And if you want to get your gear, we talked about a lot of guys out there, Killebrew, Zettel, Abdullah. You want to get those jerseys. You want to get the toaster. You're not going to need to jump in the bathtub with it this time, so that's great. It's all the official merchandise available. Again, DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Click on that shop link, and it'll take you there. Again, it never costs you more, but they give us a kickback for referring you to them. All right, don't forget to leave us a voice message before the next show, and we'll get you on the air. You can do it via Skype at Detroit Lions Podcast, all one word, Detroit Lions Podcast, or call us on the Lions line, 929-335-4667. That's 929-33-LIONS. Leave us a message. You'll get a chance to hear yourself on the show. Lastly, don't forget to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com and subscribe to the podcast. That way we can come inside your little box automatically. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions Podcast. It's your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection.
Let's bring it in here together. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Lions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lions.